what's going on out there, YouTube? This is SEL0320 representing JVS. So I have here a director that I'm really excited to actually interview today. This has been a 4-year excursion on the precipice of this interesting film that will be showcased and debuted as a documentary for San Diego Comic-Con 2018 this year. I have here Spencer F. Lee. What's going on, Spencer?
Hey, how you doing? Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a pleasure for me to be here. So right now we're pretty cooking, man. We've got 3 different clips we're going to be showing next week, Thursday morning at 10 o'clock in Ballroom 20 at San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to also debut the poster for the film next week. One of the posters, there's going to be 2, but we'll debut the first one next week. And, man, we got all kinds of fun things going on, just editing away and working hard.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So the film or the documentary is called From the Bridge. And based on what my understanding, this is taking you quite some time. How long did this take you to make? And what is the premise behind From the Bridge, essentially?
I first pitched the idea. I wanted to make the film, and I approached Carrie O'Quinn. We had been friends for a few years, and Carrie was the co-creator of Fangoria magazine, as well as Starlog magazine, Cinemagic, and Comic Scene, and Gore Zone, Future Life, and the others. So, yes, I first pitched. I wanted to make the movie, had the idea to make it, and I went to Carrie O'Quinn, and we had lunch together, and I kind of pitched the idea that I wanted to make this movie to Carrie, and I wanted him to help me. And Carrie O'Quinn was the co-creator of Fangoria magazine, Starlog, Cinemagic, Gore Zone, Future Life, Scene, and multiple other titles. Very influential man in the publishing world. And before the end, his magazines are what kept the fans together and what informed the fans of what was going on, as well as inspiring generations of filmmakers. Back in that day, if you wanted to become a filmmaker, you wanted to know about movies, you read his magazines, and you would put your name up there, and you would hook up with other people in your area, and you would go make movies, and you would begin learning your craft. Some of the people, some of the artists that Carrie directly influenced was J.J. Abrams, Bryan Singer, Robert Rodriguez, Guillermo del Toro, and many more. And not only were his magazines influential to generations of filmmakers, but also to special effects makeup artists as well as VFX artists. So it was basically pre-internet. That was where you went. So there was nothing else like it at the time. It started in the mid '70s, and they're actually going to relaunch Fangoria this October. It went out of publication, I believe, around a year or so ago, and it was bought out by a gentleman in Dallas. Dallas bought it, and it's going to relaunch in October, and I'm really excited to see the relaunch of it too. Dallas is working on a lot of really cool things for that magazine, and I'm excited to see it back on the shelves again.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, and I guess to kind of elaborate a little bit further, so after Carrie, he said that he would help me, and so I began the task of assembling, who was it that I wanted to approach to bring into the film that I thought, would obviously add to it, and I got some really wonderful, iconic visionaries and artists.
Yeah.
Stan Lee, Gene Simmons, Nichelle Nichols, and I had the idea that the best person to host it and narrate it on screen was George Takei.
Yeah.
So I had Carrie and me had breakfast with George and his partner Brad, and I pitched the idea to George Takei what I wanted to do, and he came on board with us. And it took a lot of work and a lot of time to get the interviews with everyone. Obviously, all these artists are extremely busy with their work, but they were very gracious with their time. And most of them invited me into their homes with my film crew. So the interviews are very intimate and very personal interviews. And they're very introspective. They talk about their place in fandom and some of the historical milestones that affected society positively, as well as we have some really wonderful interviews with a lot of fans themselves. So it's a really great film that documents the beginnings of the genres from the visionaries and the creators themselves, the interactions with the fans, and it goes up till today. Fandom in this particular section of entertainment, whether it's horror films, science fiction, fantasy, or comic book movies, they are the number one form of entertainment in the world. The dominant form of entertainment is these genres.
Yes.
So and it's kind of like, as we know, it wasn't always that way, and there was a lot of misconceptions about the fans themselves and the material and the seriousness of the impact of the stories. And over time, steadily but surely been winning over more people, more hearts and minds. And now, it seems like there's just tons and tons of fans, and everyone celebrates the artists and their work and these great costumes. And I like to say this a lot. To the fans, we all know what it's about, fandom, and what we're celebrating, what we're passionate about. But to the non-fans, the casual person who might catch one of these movies every now and then and might see all these thousands of people at conventions. San Diego has over 150,000 people at Comic-Con. So they see images of these fans, and they're all dressed in these fantastical, really colorful costumes, and they might not really get what's going on or what they're celebrating. And what they're celebrating is really humanity, and it's the goodness in people and common decency, and that's what the stories reflect. Whether let's take, for example, Spider-Man. When Steve Ditko and Stan Lee created the character, he was a teenager. He had lots of problems. He was arrogant. He abused his power, and as a result, his uncle died. Uncle Ben died, and it dramatically changed his life. He decided that from that moment forward, it would be all about self-sacrifice and putting other people's needs above his needs. And so it's all about self-sacrifice for Spider-Man, and that's what makes him a hero. And that's what people are celebrating. They're celebrating humanity coming together and celebrating our diversity, our uniqueness as people. No matter where you live in the world, no matter what your religion is, no matter what your sexual orientation is, it's inclusive of everyone. Fandom is. There's something for everyone, and that's what it's about. It's showing people together, and as humanity, as people, we obviously have evolved over the years, over the thousands of years, and I like to think that our culture evolves as well, and that change is slow to happen. That the knee-jerk reaction with change is that most people are scared of it, so they don't want to embrace it. And sometimes change can be bad. Not all change is good, but we're talking about good change right now. And I think that's what fandom celebrates, is the bringing together people, the celebration of humanity, self-sacrifice, doing good, loving your fellow man and woman. And that's what it's about. And yes, they dress in fantastical costumes, and they love Spider-Man and Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and all these great characters. But it's really about the stories of humanity and the struggles that we all face in our lives. And it's just another form of storytelling. It's modern day mythology. And I love it. I've been a fan since I was just a few years old. The first movie I ever saw was Star Wars. My mom took me when I was just a few years old to the drive-in theater in rural Northeast Louisiana, and I was only like maybe 5 or 6, and I had never, I'd seen television obviously, but I'd never seen anything like that before, and it completely, from such a young age, set me on a path, and that was some of the things that I wanted to show in this movie. Was I wanted to correct some misconceptions. I wanted to bring people together, and let people know that, hey, as the human race, it might take generations to be better and to be more understanding. I'm always about preaching patience with people and understanding, and try to put yourself in their shoes. And that's just my take on life, and that was why I made the movie. I wanted to put something out there that was really positive. There's so much negativity, and a lot of the negativity out there today, I think, is misplaced. I think people focus on things that are irrelevant and don't really matter. And I think that so I'm hoping my film is a little bit of a counterbalance to that. I want to spread love, and I want to spread positivity, and I think this fandom is that's what it's celebrating: love and positivity, acceptance, and that's what I want this movie to do. I hope it reaches hearts and minds, and I hope that it brings people together and shows us, that we're all in this together as the human race. And I want to take us to. Hopefully, I'll help be one of the people that pushes us forward to the next step.
Wow. Totally.
I know, right?
Oh man, that was such a beautiful answer. Man, I have so many different things to say. So, I mean, from what I'm getting from you, there's so much passion and drive and aspiration for people to be interconnected. There's so many, like you said, fan bases out there. People have different political agendas and all these different kind of things that emotionally, it takes you out of the enjoyment and the immersion of the experience of these characters and these large, bigger than life, like things that happen within these characters that we come to love. And I think that one of the most essential things right now is having movies or documentaries like yours, which would bring people collectively together, whether they're Trekkies, whether they're Star Wars fans, whether they're DC fans, whether they're Marvel fans. It's all, like you said, about the drive and the passion to interconnect versus separate.
Fandom is a celebration of our uniqueness as individuals, and it's a celebration of humanity. It's a celebration of the goodness in humanity and self-sacrifice and doing good for, to others around you. I mean, that's what it's all about.
No, that's amazing.
Thank you.
To tell you a little bit about myself, when I was a kid, the very first movie I ever remember seeing, I don't know if I saw it in the theaters or not, but I remember the first movie I ever saw was the 1989 Batman. Tim Burton himself, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, and I probably shouldn't have seen that movie as a youngster now looking back on it, but everything about it just transferred my perspective as a filmmaker, as a reviewer, as a critic, but more than anything, like this duality complex. Like I was like growing up myself as an athlete, and at the same exact time, I loved computers, I loved art, I loved film. And so I always had this duality complex. And so that movie, it kind of helped me understand myself. And even to this day, like I am a huge Batman fan, but a huge movie fan from just the way that Tim Burton was able to direct it, make it his own, and then just immerse all these different kind of lores into just one simplistic film that still stands up even now today. So I definitely feel you when it comes to the nostalgia effect of what it would be. And what it kind of changed your life, so to speak. I can only imagine with Star Wars.
Yeah, and I got to tell you a funny story about the Batman film that you're talking about, and it kind of goes with our theme here. So when that movie came out, I was in, I think maybe I was in 9th grade, I believe. I know it was somewhere around that time period. And I could not get, this is so true and so funny, I couldn't get any of my friends to go with me to see that movie.
Wow.
You know, because it opened up in the theater at Pecanland Mall. This is mall in rural Northeast Louisiana. I didn't see that one on the big screen. I mean, on the drive-in. I saw that one on the regular theater. It was a stadium seating. We didn't have that yet, but not where I was from, at least. So I go, so I tried to get my friends to go with me to see it, and, no one wanted to go see Batman. Everyone's like, oh, my God, really? You're going to go see Batman? And even though Tim Burton made it, the trailers are great. It was obviously a unique new way to show The Dark Knight, and it was, no one would go with me to see it. So I had to. That was the first movie I think I ever went to see by myself in my life was Batman. They couldn't go with me, right? And I had plenty of friends. It wasn't like I didn't have friends. I could not find one friend to go visit that film because of kind of people thinking that it was geeky or whatever, which obviously today everyone goes to see superhero movies. But at that particular time, I had to, my first movie to see by myself, could not find one person to go with me. And then, of course, it got to be a huge movie. And all the people who wouldn't go with me, once the word got out how good it was and how fun it was, and how Jack Nicholson's performance was just crazy good, that everyone went and saw it afterwards. But the opening night, went by myself. And it's so funny, I was like embarrassed, like, oh my God, I'm going by myself to the movie, all your friends. But it really wasn't like that at all. Like, and today, I actually enjoy going to the movies by myself. I still go to the movies with friends, absolutely still do that. But, I'll if I'm busy and I need a break, just kind of reboot. I like to say that I reboot my brain a lot when I'm working.
Yeah.
So I'll take a break and I'll go watch a movie by myself. And today I don't care. But at that point, I guess whenever you're a teenager, you're really self-conscious.
Yeah.
So I was like, I remember I was so embarrassed going into the theater thinking, and I had my black T-shirt on with the Batman symbol because that was really popular. Like everyone was wearing, obviously, a lot of people wore the Batman T-shirts, but my friends didn't. I had a lot of my friends were pretty much good old country boys, and we were listening to Garth Brooks and driving Jeeps and 4x4 trucks, and they just could not. Of course, they were secretly reading my comic books at my house, by the way. My friends, it's true. No one would be caught dead with a comic book. But, I had a lot of friends, and we'd come over to the house, and, we'd hang out, ride four-wheelers, play badminton, do all kinds of stuff, and they'd be like, "Hey, do you have the latest issue of X-Men?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Well, hey, yeah, could you mind if I read it?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I'd hand it to them, and they go sit in the corner of my bedroom, and they thumbing through the pages of the X-Men comic, and when they're done, they give it back to me and act like it never happened. For real, like crazy, man. And and today, I mean, that was before the X-Men cartoon came out. I was a huge X-Men fan and loved it. And then the cartoon came out, and then all of a sudden, all these people who had no idea why I loved the X-Men, that they just didn't get it, could not comprehend it. That cartoon came out in the early 90s, and that cartoon changed everything. It rebooted the importance of cartoons. It was like the first cartoon ever that was very faithful to the original material.
Yeah.
I think it was I think it was the first cartoon ever. I could be wrong, but it seems like in my memory, from my experience, it was the first cartoon that was very much. I mean, I remember, you had Gambit and Rogue. They were having, a personal relationship. That was not normal.
Yeah.
I mean, when you watch the Super Friends or Super Powers or whatever, no one ever had like their personal interactions with one another. They were like almost like cardboard cutouts. Like, ooh, Batman, we must stop that. It was never like there was no kind of like personification of what you felt like. Here I'm talking about humanity and these stories about humanity. Those cartoons were great. I loved them, but they didn't have that dynamic in it. They didn't have the normal everyday personal struggles of people. They just simply showed it as good versus evil, right versus wrong. It was very straight, and it's straightforward. But X-Men cartoon came around, and it wasn't. All of a sudden you had these complex relationships. You had the Juggernaut, who was Professor Xavier's stepbrother, and he hated him, wanted to kill him. You had the complex relationship between Magneto and Professor X. Magneto was this villain, but he was kind of like a villain that was trying to protect his people. He was like the Malcolm X of his time, or the Martin Luther King Jr. He wanted to protect his people. He wanted to positive things to happen for his race. Mutant times, and so that was such a transformative cartoon series. And I think that when I talked earlier about people and humanity evolving and changing, progress is slow, but it does come. Is there setbacks sometimes? Yes, but I think I'm very optimistic about the human race and where we're headed. In the next few decades or even hundreds of years. And I'm really positive. I know that there's obstacles and hurdles. I know there's a lot of negativity out there, but I hope people will see this movie and realize that a lot of things that they worry about or put a lot of stock in is irrelevant. It's almost like a waste of time. Negative energy is not any good.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this movie really shows the struggle of the fans and acceptance, and I hope that I hope that we can reach out there and touch some people in a positive way.
Yeah, no, I think that's very truly important. And I mean, like you were kind of alluding to, even with your Batman scenario, back in the day, the concept of comics and science fiction, you're considered a geek. But now the geek is the norm. You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody doesn't know who Spider-Man is or who Batman is, people look at them sideways like there's something wrong with you. Back then, you're reading these comics and you're imagining in your head like, man, this would be amazing if, like this character, like Brad Pitt for some reason was playing like Captain America. Like you're dreaming in your head like, man, it would be great for something like this to happen. Now, the reality is now. And I know that, I guess, based on your passion, what I'm hearing from you, it means everything what's going on and what's exploding on the entertainment level, like from TV shows to cartoons to movies, everywhere. Geek is no longer synonymous with a negativity, but it's more so like it's a culture, it's a generational thing, it's something to be inspired about. That's something that you should embrace, no matter, like you said, what your ethnicity is, whatever you believe. Being a geek and the concept now is so much bigger in light. And I know I was curious, what does that mean to you now that there's been a paradigm shift, so to speak?
Well, I tell you what, this is my take on it, is that first off, we're all flawed.
Yep.
There's not one person in this world that's perfect. No, we all have flaws. Every single one of us, we all have flaws. We all make mistakes, and we hope to learn from our mistakes and correct them and do better as we move forward. But really, what it comes down to when you talk about the geekdom and the geekiness and all that, is that what makes us unique individuals is our quirks.
Yep.
And everyone's got different quirks. Some quirks are good, or some are bad, but I mean, but my point is a quirk is like something, a tick you have or a quirk, and all these quirks together is what defines you as as a unique individual. So whenever people want to say, oh, you know, geekdom and all of this, what geekdom really means is quirkiness. You know, it's quirks, and they have quirks for the costumes and quirks for the love of fandom, and people want to label those quirks as being geeky and negative in the past. They're not anymore, because people are more understanding that the unique quirks that each of us have, that set of quirks, is what makes us unique, which makes us a special person. And, you know, like I said, we're all flawed. No one's perfect. I have tons of flaws, tons of quirks, you know, and I try to do better every day. But, you know, we just have to accept that's actually what makes us beautiful. Yeah, there was a line in a movie that's always stuck with me, and it was an Avengers film that I think is just one of the it's coolest. I mean, I always like just replay this in my mind. But it's the scene in Avengers whenever they bring the Vision to life, and Thor comes in with his hammer, you know, and he uses his powers, you know, to basically power the Mind Stone and bring Vision to life. Yeah. And they ask him, you know, are you evil? Are you bad? You know, and he says it's a little bit more complex than that. He goes, I'm the side of life. You know, and that's what he says. It's more complex than good and evil. He's for life. And then he talks about, he makes a comment about a thing is not beautiful because it lasts. And that's true. Yeah. You know, so you know, it's so funny I'm quoting an Avengers movie, but that's kind of the heart of what I'm saying, is that these movies are tales about humanity, and they're stories. They're to guide us and help us be better people. And I'm a really big firm believer in self-sacrifice. You know, I think that is what is, you know, the order and the rule and the order of the world and the peace that we have. A lot of, I know that there's not peace everywhere, but in general, the peace and prosperity is because of self-sacrifice from people, you know, because they gave up their lives, or they gave up their energy, and they gave up their personal time to help, you know, the goal of humankind, to make us better, make us safe, let us evolve, become better in the future. We should always become better, always strive to be better. Yeah. No, that's a great answer too. you're nailing these answers, so just let you know. But on the topic of your cast that you have for this film, man, you had to have gotten starstruck, man. Like I'm sitting there trying to picture myself trying to interview George Takei, Stan Lee, Nichelle Nichols, like, I mean, Gene Simmons from Kiss. Like I don't know how I would have been able to just kind of like, oh, let's do this and not geek out every 5 seconds. But how was your experience, you know, interviewing and dissecting what you're trying to get from these specific people or influential people? I tell you, there was only 2 people I was really starstruck about, and I'm going to say this, and this is not taking away from anyone else in the film, by no means. I'm just being honest here. But I was starstruck, and I'm sure everyone's going to completely understand this one, by Stan Lee. Yeah. You know, so when I went, I mean, obviously being a huge Marvel fan and a fan of what he's done to be a positive influence in the world, you know, kind of what I'm talking about with bringing humanity up and teaching acceptance. Stan Lee's been a great person behind that. So when I met Stan Lee, it was like, oh man. So it was at MegaCon in Orlando, and that's where I interviewed him at. So here I am. I'm sitting up in the little room. We've got the cameras already, and we're waiting for Stan to come in. You know, he's been doing pictures. He's been signing autographs. He's been talking to people, having a grand old time. And they have there's a lot of walking involved in these conventions, and a lot of being on your feet and stuff. So they had Stan like the cart thing to take him around if he needed to go from one end of the convention to the other. Yeah. But he didn't want to ride in the cart. He was like, forget it, I'm walking. Yeah. So his Max Anderson was with him. And Max is like riding in the cart, and Stan's walking alongside it, and they're heading towards me for the interview. And I'm like standing there in the doorway of this like little area, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, here it comes. I mean, I already saw him at the convention, but it was like, oh my God, I'm about to interview Stan Lee. I'm just like standing there, and I'm watching him walk towards me, and he's got his sweater on, and he's just Stan Lee being Stan Lee. So he sat down on the couch, and I'm like, oh God, man. This is on video, actually. There's like a behind-the-scenes footage of the whole thing, and if anyone looks at it, y'all are going to see how nervous I am, and I'm like laughing nervously because I had to introduce myself to him. So, I mean, obviously he's Stan Lee. Well, I'm Spencer Lee, right? So Spencer F. Lee. So I introduced myself to him, and it was like, wow, our names are very similar. And I kind of had this really geeky laugh because I was nervous, you know. So I was very awestruck so funny but true. I could not sleep for like a week. Like I was so excited about that interview. Even when it was over with, it was like I had this adrenaline rush that lasted for like a week, and I was just like laying in bed all night, and I was like, and I kept watching the interview over and over. It was crazy. So yes, I was so awestruck by Stan Lee, absolutely. And the second person that really kind of awestruck me, and this is random, but he's a creative genius director. I love his work, but that was Joe Dante. You know, because The Howling is one of my top favorite movies of all time. Seen it, know how dark it is, how bloody and brutal. And for anyone out there listening to this interview that has never seen Joe Dante's The Howling, is a werewolf film. It is a very, very scary werewolf film. It is like the most scary, darkest werewolf film ever made, and it's just so good. I love it. And I saw it, and the guys are so bad, but I saw it when I was only, I don't know, maybe 10. Definitely not the age to be watching The Howling at all, but, you know, back then, parents were very lenient, you know, on what, I mean, I'm sure there's still parents today that are lenient, but yeah, I mean, and man, I just love that movie. It was so freaking scary. And of course, Joe Dante also directed one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes, and it was in the Twilight Zone movie. And oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of it. It's like one of those moments where you're talking, and you just like have that moment, you can't grasp it. But it's the story of the little boy, and and basically he can do anything. You know, and he's got these people trapped in this house. He's like omnipotent. You know, he can do anything, and he basically is just a spoiled little boy. And it's just, and the visuals and the story is just so creepy and scary. And of course, he directed the first two Gremlins.
Gremlins, yes.
You know, yes, Gremlins. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's such a great freaking film.
Yeah.
And the first Gremlins is like a Christmas movie. You know, I mean,
yeah,
it's a Christmas
it was.
story. And then no one like realizes this like this fantasy horror film is a Christmas story, and it's got these cute little fuzzy things that turn into like these monsters. It's such a great film. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's also Gremlins. So meeting Joe Dante was like, yeah, I completely was like nervous. I even told Joe, I was like, look, man, I was like, I got to tell you this. I was like, I am like very starstruck and very like nervous. I'm like, because I'm a big fan of yours. And he's like, what? You know, because Joe's like super laid back. You know, he's in his office, and his office is a lot like mine. It's chaotic and cluttered, and papers everywhere. You know, and I should say it's chaotic and cluttered. I'm sure that's his method of working. You know, but not as chaotic and cluttered as mine.
Yeah.
But he had a lot of work. Let's put it that way. He had a lot of work on his desk. You know, you'll even see in the interview. It's so kind of funny because whenever we were setting the cameras up and stuff in his office waiting for him, he had not come into the office yet. And so his desk was like, you know, just like he always has it. He's got papers halfway hanging off the desk. You know, like if you look at his desk and like half the papers like just hanging off the side of it, like it's about to fall off. You know, and I didn't want to touch anything or move anything or clean anything up. I was like, you know what? This is what his desk looks like. This is his environment. I want to capture it just like it is. So yes, when y'all watch the movie, you'll see Joe Dante at his desk and papers hanging off the side of it. But it's perfect because, you know, he's creative genius. Joe's like such an amazing man. Very, very nice man too. And yeah, so that was my other Star Trek person, was Joe Dante. And I guess, you know, I've gotten to be really good friends with Nichelle Nichols over the last few years, and always being around Nichelle is always pleasant. She's so sweet and so wonderful, and she smiles a lot, and she's just great. Really, she's just very, very uplifting, very positive person. I love being around Nichelle. So those are some of the ones, you know, that made. I mean, everyone made a big impression on me, but those are the ones that really just kind of, you know, set me off a little bit.
Nah, that's.
In a good way, like took me off my game, and I had to control my geekiness.
Yeah, man, I didn't even think about Joe Dante because some of his films, man, I really love. The Burbs, Gremlins was probably the biggest one. But then even like Small Soldiers, like I'm a nerd though, so it is what it is. But no, Stan Lee. So maybe about 2 years ago, I was able to meet him at I think it was New York Comic Con, And I was able to kind of meet and greet him, but then they let us take a picture with him. And I was right next to him. They was like, well, put your arm around him. I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of scared. And so I took my arm around him, took a picture, and like legit, the picture, I have it framed. For the longest time, the first year of my marriage, it was right next to the side of where we sleep at. And like my wife was like, why do I see Stanley every morning when I wake up? So I apologize to my wife a lot for that. So, no, that's amazing.
Wow. Well, I have to tell you back, and also back on the Stan Lee topic, I directed the filming of the handprint ceremony at the Chinese Theater for the Stan Lee handprint ceremony last summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that was I wasn't as nervous that go around. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously, I love Stanley to death. I mean, he's done so many wonderful things in his life and brought so many people up and just really had one of the most positively, hugely impactful people in the most positive way. He's probably, I would say this, and this is my opinion, obviously, and people will probably debate me on this, but I think three of the most important artists, writers, that is, and there's lots of very important, I shouldn't say important, impactful for me in my life. How about that? In my life, some of the ones I would say would be like, George Lucas and Stan Lee, as well as, I have to admit that I don't really watch a lot of Disney cartoons, because I was growing up, I gravitated more towards horror and science fiction and less towards the Disney fantasy, but I have a great respect for what Walt Disney did. He built this beautiful interactive universe, and it's just gorgeous. So I have respect for what he did. So I would, so we had Walt Disney, Stan Lee, George Lucas. I think, and of course, I think those are three of the really iconic creators of the last 100 years. When it comes to like storytelling and stuff, modern day Mark Twain's.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I definitely feel the same exact way, and I will admit I am a Disney junkie. Like I have so many different Disney movies. I've been still collecting. I got some of the VHSs as well. I'm hoping that I can bring my kid through at least a good half of them, and they can kind of latch on to them so we can bring them back in some way, shape, or form. But I'm a big fan of 2D animation, so what can you do?
It's so funny. You saying that makes me think about Disney, and some of my favorite Disney movies actually have been kind of the live-action ones, like Return to Witch Mountain, the Witch Mountain film, Herbie Goes Bananas. I really like that. And, of course, I really loved the live-action Jungle Book that came out a couple of years ago. Yeah. Man, that movie was so freaking cool. Like, I went and watched it, and I was just like, that one, I was very excited for a couple of days. I just thought it was such a beautiful film. Gorgeous, gorgeous film. Beautiful, great story. Loved it.
Yeah, there's so many different ones. But I guess going back to the topic of the film now, as a director, I'm assuming. So you say you directed the one for Stan Lee before, but this is like your big kind of magnum opus, like breaking out. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I should real quick. The footage from the Stan Lee handprint ceremony will be in From the Bridge.
Oh, wow.
I shot the ceremony. Yeah, so I shot the handprint ceremony to include in From the Bridge. That's what I filmed it for. But that being said, and this is something that I've had a couple of conversations with. I'm not sure where it's going to go. How about this? Everyone that hears this, let's all get a petition to make it happen, and I'll make it happen personally, one way or another. But that needs to be put together in the film itself, the handprint ceremony, because I had all access to backstage. Everywhere backstage, everywhere walking around. They had the press corps that were in bleachers that had to stay there. But since I was directing the filming of it, I had access to everything. I could go anywhere. So I had a camera crew, me and then two other gentlemen, and we basically did. We walked away even into the back area. Just all access. So there's a lot of stuff, and that footage has not yet seen the light of day. None of that footage has been seen. I will say this: there is obviously footage from the press corps where they filmed it from the bleachers. Yeah. But that's all one camera angle looking straight ahead. That they were on the bleachers and that's where they had to film from. But my stuff is we were allowed to go everywhere. So we have really cool moments and a lot of really nice footage. So yeah, a lot of that's going to be in From the Bridge. But what I'm getting to is that I want to take all that footage and actually cut a really nice celebratory piece of Stan Lee. Of the handprint ceremony, so I'm hoping that, and it'll happen one way or another, but yeah, so I want to cut that next when I'm done From the Bridge.
Yeah, so YouTubers, bloggers out there, you're listening. Wherever he's got a petition, sign it, because I'm all for that. I think that the concept of what everything that Stan was going through at that time was just so much that it would be amazing to just visualize him kind of like walking up and doing that. And even if you had like an audio bite on the back end and then you just kind of see it, I know for a fact Sundance theaters and different people would love to be able to just see that and marvel and something commemorate him and tribute him. I think it would be very essential. So I got a thumbs up on it. You guys should definitely do the same thing. So whenever he does it,
so maybe we'll figure out what to do with it moving forward. But I definitely want to put it together as a historical document for us and for what Stan, and I want to put it together and do a really nice job with it.
I'm there with you, man. You got my support. And then I guess moving forward, what is the next thing that you would hope to do after From the Bridge? What are you looking in? What would entice you in terms of a good story or another documentary? Like, what do you want to do next as a director?
While I've been editing From the Bridge, it became really clear to me that there is another movie in the footage as well. So that's the couple things I've got on the horizon is this other film that I'm potentially going to edit out of other footage that won't be From the Bridge.
Okay.
And it's a good story. It's a really great story. So I'm kind of looking at that. I've been writing for a while. And generally I write science fiction, fantasy, and horror.
Yeah.
So I have a few scripts that I've written that are sitting around, and one of them I'm actually already in the process of making. So I don't know what's going to be finished at what point. But I'm definitely probably, I guess it's definitely going to be feature films, like less documentary, and probably more fantasy. I like when I look at the genres, I see things maybe a little differently than some people do, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everyone sees it this way. But I look at let's take science fiction for example. Mm-hmm. 2001: Space Odyssey is a science fiction film. Star Wars is really science fantasy. And there's a difference between science fiction and science fantasy.
I agree.
And I tend to fall more to the science fantasy category of what I like. And a lot of people talk about comic book movies. I don't really see them as comic book movies as a genre. I look at that as also science fantasy, because if you look at the way the characters are created and the reality in which the universe in which they inhabit, it's really science fantasy. You look at the Fantastic Four, you look at Spider-Man, you look at even Superman. It's all fantastical elements. And the same thing is for horror. You have supernatural horror, and then you have natural horror. An example of supernatural horror would be a werewolf movie. An example of natural horror would be like Silence of the Lambs. Because that Silence of the Lambs is a horror film, but it doesn't have supernatural elements to it. So it's a natural horror film. So I look at the genres. That's how I kind of break it down in my head. Is I look at science fiction, science fantasy, fantasy horror, and natural horror, and those are my kind of categories. And I tend to lean towards supernatural horror and fantasy science fiction, or kind of my favorites of them.
Oh, that sounds interesting. I'm excited to see what you got coming up with that then.
Thank you.
I'm actually part-time filmmaker and writer and actor as well. And I've actually shot and filmed a film, but it's like I got to go through the editing process. So there's a lot of different things and niches here and there that I'm really passionate about. I want to perfect. So I might be asking you questions later on, just to let you know.
Oh, absolutely, anytime. And that's something that I really enjoy about filmmaking, is that you get to work with so many artists on so many levels. And it's like almost like making a movie or a film is like a collaboration of all these things. Like, you have musicians who write scores or write music. You have actors who master the art of humanity and portraying humanity. You have writers who look at the world around them and they capture bits and pieces of that and they put it together in a really nice myriad, a mosaic of beauty. Yeah. And then, of course, you have photographers who actually film it, who put the cinematography and bring these images to life. You know, and you got stunt actors, you got set decorators. You know, it just goes on and on. It's like the filmmaking is just such a gumbo pot of all the arts combined, and that's what I really love about it is being able to dabble in this and that. You know, making a movie, all of them.
Yeah. I definitely understand that passion, and I'm right there with you. I'm trying not to nerd out anymore. So just to kind of close you out, because I know I've had you for a while, if you can kind of let everybody know what time you're going to be doing your presentation, where people can find you, and the website for the actual film, and any other information that you have as far as social media, we'd love to shout you out. It'll be in the description bar below as well, you guys.
Yes, I would say we have a website, FromTheBridgeMovie.com. We're on Facebook. You know, we just launched it recently. It's the Facebook page is From the Bridge. And I know we have Twitter and Instagram. And gosh, I know everyone on my team is probably going to be like, really? You forgot? I was supposed to like made a cheat sheet to sit beside me, because I've never posted anything on Instagram, and I'm not on Twitter, which everyone's probably like, what? Yeah, but honestly, the reason for me is that I get distracted fairly easy, especially when I'm creating and writing and stuff. So I have to control myself a little bit when it comes to social, like talking and whatnot. Yeah, so if I have to write and create something, I have to have the least amount of distractions as possible. Yeah. So I'm not on Instagram or Twitter. So I know my team right now is going to listen to this and go, how in the world did you forget the freaking Instagram and Twitter? So I don't know, and I forgot. But I'm sure if you search it out, you can find it. But I know FromTheBridgeMovie.com and From the Bridge on Facebook. Okay. And those are two great places that'll definitely keep you informed. And the panel is Thursday, 10 a.m. in San Diego. It's in Ballroom 20. It's going to be moderated by Greg Grunberg. You know, and all you Heroes fans out there might remember Greg from his psychic. He played the psychic, telepathic police officer. Really, I was a big fan of that show. Yeah, I just actually was emailing Greg last night, and I was telling him that I was like, look, man, me and my friends, we'd all get together, and that was our pizza night. You know, we'd all get over at my house, and we'd order pizza, and we'd watch Heroes, and then we'd all kind of figure out what the evil, manipulative Siler was up to next. And I was joking with Greg about it. I said, I cornered George Takei about this. I was like, because George played in Heroes. He was the father of it's one of those moments you can't remember her name, but the Japanese guy who could basically teleport and bend space-time. Hero. And that was Hero. So, so George Takei played his father on the series. So, and you knew that he was also a different, I forgot what the title was. Basically, they were kind of mutants, like. Yeah. So they were like, but they never said what his power was. You knew he was rich. You knew he was powerful. He was a member of this like clan of powerful people who did things, but he never used his powers. So I cornered George Takei. I was like, George. I was like, look, man. I was a big fan of Heroes, and I knew that you were like, your version of a mutant on the show. I said, but you never had a power. You never did anything. I was like, what was up with that? And he just laughed. And he said, yeah. He said, we all talked about that. And he's like, and you know what my power was? I'm like, what was it? I was like, no one's ever said. I don't know. And George is like, I had the power to read trends and understand trends in the future. And I used that power. Yes, that was his power. And he used that power to become very wealthy and very powerful in the world. So that was his power. You never saw him use it on the show, but he told me his power was to foresee and understand trends and to take advantage of those trends to become rich and powerful. That was his power. I don't know if that's ever been publicly said or not, and I hope I haven't done some kind of horrible spoiler that the Heroes universe is waiting on one day. But yeah, that was his power. So yes, I told Greg Grunberg, I was like, I'm going to corner you and get secrets from you. So I'm joking about that. We'll see what I can shake out of Greg.
That's hilarious. Well, you guys heard it first. I'm not sure if we were supposed to talk about that, but it's out there now. And then
I'm going to be getting a phone call. I'm going to have George Takei on the phone going, Spencer, you're not supposed to say that. George is really nice. He's such a nice man. Him and Brad both. I love him to death.
Yeah, no. You got such an awesome cast a part of this project. And as far as Greg Grunberg, I've been following him for a while. Like, he actually is in the show that I love, The Flash, and he was in a couple episodes of that. But then he also did some voice acting. He just all over. He loves science fiction, it seems. And
absolutely, yeah. He was in Star Trek, Star Wars, and yeah, he's Greg's a big old geek. Yeah, he loves all the fantasy stuff, and he grew up. I'm sure you know this, but he grew up with J.J. Abrams, just one of his close friends.
Yeah.
So they collaborated and had a lifelong friendship. But yeah, so I was really, when they told me Greg was going to moderate the panel, because I was like, really? I was like, oh man, it's so cool. I was so excited, and I still am. I think it's so cool he's doing it.
Yeah, I'm actually excited. There's one movie, I think with, oh my gosh, I lost the name. Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. I think the name of it was A Star is Born. I'm actually really excited for that movie. I know he's going to be one of the main stars of it. So I guess he's got a lot going on. But no, thank you so much, Spencer, for your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for reaching out to me to the interview. I had a great time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys heard it here first. Go to the description bar below and check out everything you want to know about it. We're going to be doing a collective panel. I'm not sure if Comic-Con will be actually projecting it, but if they are, I will be letting you guys know with a notification. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't going to stop. Have a blessing, guys. Peace.
Wingman, cause I'm on his team. Higher than the flyest spaceship you ever seen. Hotter than the sunbeam, cause it's so real. Call him Mr. Wonderful, cause he is that deal. The night is darkest just before the dawn, and the dawn is coming quick and crack is coming with T-Nick. Yeah.